Let's look at the characters that Joseph wrote off from the gold plates, and he took to Professor Anton. Professor Anton was probably the most educated man in America in his day. And he gave him this slip of paper with characters that were taken off from the gold plates. You look how he spelled characters. Joseph couldn't even spell right. He couldn't spell characters. But he gave him this sheet of paper. And you know the story. He looked at it and he looked at the translation and he liked the way it was translated. And then, of course, you know the story. He says, "Where did you get this stuff?" And you told about an angel. An angel, huh? Let me see this written document I just gave you, authenticating what you just translated. And he tore it up. He didn't want to have anything to do with angels. But he said the translation was correct. Now I found a magazine, Secrets of Ancient America. In Big Bend National Park in Texas, they found a stone that has exactly the same characters that were on the Anton script, proving that that was a language that was written here in America. This stone was dated about 100 BC. This is right smack in the middle of Nephite civilization here. So here is an archaeological evidence substantiating that this written language was used here in America during the middle of Book of Mormon times. Here's a stone, the Stella 5 stone. The Stella 5 is Lehi's dream. We have the Tree of Life. We have people sitting on either side of it, and if you study the history of it, one of the individuals is identified as Lehi. One of the individuals is identified as Nephi. There is a river that's waves are going both ways, means it's a stagnant pond. There's a path leading to the tree, and there's a rod alongside. That's the path, and the iron rod that leads to the Tree of Life. It's Lehi's dream, and they found this Stella 5 stone, and it is Lehi's dream. There's another thing. About 20 miles outside of Jerusalem, there's a place called the House of Lehi. Isn't that interesting? Lehi was a very wealthy merchant back there about 600 BC. This is the fall of the House of Lehi, and the story is that there was a very wealthy family that just kind of disappeared about 600 BC. Well, another little authenticity, another event authenticating the Book of Mormon. But here's pictures inside some of the dwellings that might be where Nephi was raised. And they were building a road through that valley, and it entered into a cave. And on the cave, there was a picture of a ship, and there's writings that said that they were leaving this area and they were being led by the hand of God to a promised land. Now this was taken off from the wall, and it was put into a museum. I think it was in Tel Aviv. But here's another substantiation of the story of the Book of Mormon, writing on the wall. Now, there was some Mormon boys that decided that they wanted to find the river that Lehi talked about. In Arabia, in the northwestern part of Arabia, there's no such thing as a river. You can't find a river anywhere. There's no literature about a river. Well, if the Lehi story is true, you got to find a river. And so they got a four-wheeler, and they used the Book of Mormon as a map, as a guide, and they have to find this river within 75 miles. Why 75 miles? Well, Lehi was 3 days out of Jerusalem when he went into this valley and found this river, and a camel goes about 25 miles a day. So they have to find a river within 75 miles of Jerusalem. Now they got in their vehicle and they drove along the Red Sea, like the Book of Mormon says that Lehi traveled for a while, and then he goes into the mountains, and they travel along the mountains, and about 70 miles, nothing's happening. We can't find a river. But up ahead there's a little opening in this mountain, and they come through this little opening and it drops down into a valley. And at the top end of this valley there's a spring. And that spring is running a stream of water. And it goes through the valley. It's maybe 8 feet wide and 2 or 3 feet deep. And it runs all the way through the valley, and it empties into the Red Sea. They found the river 3 days out of Jerusalem, right where it's supposed to be. A little farther down the road in southern Arabia, there is a ruin of a city, and the name of the place is called Nahum. Now, did Joseph make that name up? They found the city, Nahum, and of course Ishmael was buried there, and it's part of the story of the Book of Mormon happened there. And then they finally made their way into southern Arabia, and there is a place that looks like Bountiful. The older brothers thought they'd gone to heaven because there was water there and it was green, and they wanted to stay there, but the Lord told Nephi to build a ship and sail away from this place. But there in southern Arabia, there is a place where there's water, there's woods, and they were able to make a ship and sail away. Where did they sail to? Well, they came to America. Now, a lot of people in the church think that the Book of Mormon took place down in Mesoamerica, Central America, Mexico. I thought so too, until I ran across some people that have done some research, and really, the Book of Mormon took place right here on the North American continent. The Great Lakes, the Book of Ether says that the sea divides the land. Okay? And you look at this picture, the sea divides the land. Now in Central America, it's the land divides the sea. Okay? And Niagara, the Niagara River running between these two lakes, Niagara in the native language means narrow neck of land. And indeed, there is a narrow neck of land that goes between the land southward and the land northward, and that's where the Niagara River flows. In North America, we find mounds. This is a picture of a temple mound. The Book of Mormon talks about mounds. We don't find mounds in Central and South America. This particular picture is it's called Fort Ancient, and we're looking at a wall. It's probably 25, 30 feet high. And it goes around this, what was a city complex. It was over a mile in size, and it's very interesting. From the inside, there's a trench, and then there's a mound. And anciently, there was a fort on top of the mound that went all the way around. We were led around here by a Jewish curator of a museum, local museum, and he says, you know, this place is a little different, because around a lot of cities where they built these mounds, there's a trench on the outside, and an invader would have to go down the trench, up the hill, and the fortress on top of that. He says, this place has the trench on the inside. He said it's almost as if they were trying to keep people in. Then, when he got out of sight, Wayne May opened up his Book of Mormon and read to us where the Nephites had captured this Lamanite army, and they put them to work fortifying the city to hold them in, and it specifically said they built the trench on the inside. So the old Jewish curator nailed it right on the head. You see trees growing up over this thing, but with a trench going down and then going up on that thing and then a wooden fort on top of it, you couldn't get around that thing. And then the Book of Mormon tells us the Jaredites, they were giants. They were giant people in the land. Why did they name the New York ball team the New York Giants? Well, the reason they did that is because the early settlers in that part of the country found skeletons. Skeletons of people that were 9 and 10 feet tall. So there was evidence of giants in the land. Here we have a picture of a cast of a lower mandible, that's the white stone, of an average sized person. And we have one of the giant mandibles, which is at least 2.5 times bigger than the mandible of a normal person. The Book of Mormon tells us about giants in the lands. They were Jaredites.